what you've done here is a massive undertaking. What was the genesis for this project?
Well, it started out as a play. It's a bit like Lorien. It was a series of scenes with the male characters going backwards in a linear way until the last scene, which was the same as the last scene as the film. And it's a kind of you do it in one go. When we've done it before, we did it at Shakespeare's Globe in London, and we did it at the Wallace Annenberg in LA. It's literally the female character sits in the center of the stage with all the men around her, and they each come into this playing space in turn and play the scene. And when I did it in Los Angeles, that was when 5 women came up to me afterwards and said they would really like to direct some of the scenes as short films. And I thought, I hadn't even thought about that, to be honest. And I thought they'd all want to do the same scenes. So I was thinking, this isn't going to work. They're all going to want to do that scene, But actually, they all wanted to do different scenes. And we started shooting them as shorts. And then I had this stupid idea that we shoot all of them. It took me 2 years. And it really wasn't a planned thing. It was quite accidental. And initially, the idea was simply to support women I knew and admired into directing, women who were producers and showrunners and executives and actresses into supporting them making their first films and doing it as an exercise to support survivors.
What you've told me, I'm concerned you might be a risk to yourself.
You never see the therapist, Alan Cumming, but you recognize that voice right away.
I didn't want anyone to see the therapist because I didn't want you to invest in the therapist. I didn't want there to be any suggestion that she might get involved or fall in love with the therapist. I felt that the therapist is like a kind of guiding line rather than someone that I wanted the audience to invest in. But I did think it was important that he was a man, because I didn't want people walking away from the film thinking it was anti-male. I felt it was very important to me that you realize that she makes these choices because she's damaged, not because all men are bad. And so it was very important to me that it's a male therapist that guides her to recovery, for example. And Alan.
Yeah, and you didn't need another man for her to contend with.
No, I think they're quite enough.
It just occurred to me that in this age of COVID, statistics now coming out about domestic abuse spiked tremendously over the last couple of years, which makes this story even more prescient, even more important now. Do you feel that way as well?
Well, it was funnily enough, the project I'm doing at the moment is a response to the rise in domestic violence figures. I'm doing a project of survivor monologues for theatre, and they are first person accounts, and they are responses to things that have happened during the pandemic.
Getting back to the film, you went from 5 people who wanted to be part of this film to 21 female directors.
Yes.
How did you deal with that?
Well, it's not easy. I felt a tremendous sense of responsibility that I'm not sure I handled terribly well, in that I felt that all these hundreds of people have come together to make this film in terms of crew, and each director had a different crew, and we shot each film on a separate day, and it was a bit of an albatross in one way, because I felt I had to deliver something that rang true to the fact that all these hundreds of people had given their time and energy voluntarily. But what was lovely was that there were some amazing collaborations between female directors and their female DPs. I found that the crews I hadn't worked with that many female directors, and I found that the crews and the days of shooting were really, have to say, chill. There was very little ego around with the films, and I found that, you know, I just felt incredibly fortunate to be working with such a creative and inspired bunch of women who were just genuinely very excited about making their first film. And many of them have gone on to do another one almost immediately. It's been like they've been bitten by the bug. And I loved shooting every minute of it. I felt so grateful that it became this much larger project than I had ever anticipated it becoming. And it was just a complete joy. And we had a lot of fun on set, you know, working with Jason Isaacs, working with Nathan Fillion. They're both friends. They were hilarious. I also thought a lot of the actors stepped into quite difficult parts, you know, and made these men human and likable and funny, and, you know, yeah, I feel it was, I feel very grateful that everybody came together and actually made it happen. I think it's a minor miracle, whether the films, whether you like the film or not, I'm not quite sure how we made it happen. I think often survivor stories don't necessarily have to be horrific in the sharing of. Sometimes I think it's literally recognition and holding the space, because it's not something that people talk about often openly. So I think when people do, they don't necessarily feel they have to tell you everything, but they kind of know, okay, I'm not the only person.
I thought that was really positive in a way, because you could learn from each segment, each short, something about yourselves, about relating it to other relationships you may have had.
Well, what I hoped was that it wasn't actually about one thing, the film, that it's about relationship universals, whether it's, you know, young love, infidelity, loss of virginity, alcoholism. I mean, I think the idea was that it covered many areas of relationships, so that I was hopeful that people would identify with different parts, not necessarily all of it, obviously, but could see something of their past or their relationship history in one or other of the relationships. And also we did hope that it was kind of gently, darkly funny.
Well, there are some very funny parts, and you know, you light up the screen in many of them with fun, and which helps the pacing of the film and in its totality. And it also gives people awareness of things to watch out for, which I think was very positive. And I think
well, that was my motive for writing it. I really literally sat down and thought, everything that I ever want to tell my daughter about men, what does that look like?
What did your daughter say after she saw this?
I've been very transparent with her. She wasn't seeing something that she didn't know. It wasn't like a revelation to her. But when she came, she chose to come to the premiere with me. She said she wanted to come down and see the film at Austin. And I was just really so blown away by that. And I told her that. I really appreciated her support. And that was not what I was expecting her to volunteer, you know. And she was, for me, she was the person that I really wanted to share it with, to be honest. So that was really nice.